Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. This is the fifth of our AI Thoughts talk, and if it's AI, like it is Gen AI right now, at least as far as the world is concerned, and all AI enthusiasts are concerned. Uh, it's been making rapid progress in the last few months, and as Ravi keeps saying, what used to be years in software development is now months in AI, and probably weeks in the world of Gen AI. So without much ado, I'll leave it to L Ravi to take you through some of the changes, the trends that are happening in the Gen AI world, the kind of progress in terms of what Gen AI can do, and the kind of risks that it comes with. So over to you, Ravi.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I think we are going to take a little bit of a different view, and we had a very highly detailed technical discussion of the large language model. I think the diagrams of Mukund Kannan was kind of scary enough. And then Saji came and he talked about kind of video, audio, image processing. And so we thought that just like any other field, especially very controversial, fast-moving field, there will be gossips, there will be rumors, there will be lawsuits. And so I'm going to basically update you on both what is happening on this front. So it is going to be, and it is so difficult to catch up with everyday news that kind of hope that it just gets you basically into a common ground, and also have some fun listening to the lawsuits and the gossips and stories of how this industry is moving. So that is the theme of today. And when I was discussing with Divakar and then getting back to, basically I was in Dharamsala, actually went to watch the test match, and the 5-day test match became 3 days. and we were a group of 5 friends, and I think somebody talks about the Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickinson. And then I said it is so apt for this industry that one day you hear the news that major breakthroughs have happened. OpenAI is coming out with a humanoid. Elon Musk is coming out with a humanoid. Next day there are problems. And I think that this particular beginning, first paragraph of this novel, Tale of Two Cities, is probably the best describes where we are in the Gen AI field. It was the best of times, and also it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, where we all think that your artificial general intelligence is coming, and it was the age of foolishness with all the stupid errors, wrong statements, hallucinations, and all the things coming out. With the epoch of belief and the epoch of incredulity, and season of light, season of darkness, and the spring of hope and the winter of despair. So this basically actually summarizes where we are in this industry. We will talk a little bit about, like, it was best of times, and also something about it was worst of times. And then we can have a debate at the end of this session. So basically it is best of times. I think look at every day there will be an interview. Sam Altman, basically one techie who is more marketing oriented. He doesn't sit in his cupboard and just write code. He's always on the news. He's always giving interviews. He's always presenting conferences. And he keeps telling these snippets saying that we have achieved a breakthrough. We are close. We are close to artificial general intelligence, which will surpass the human level of intelligence. And when really somebody asked him to put a time frame, so he said maybe 5 years, maybe more. But he did mention, and the people catch hold of the maybe 5 years more than maybe more, but around that time frame. And another kind of CEO of Anthropic is also very big in the AI space. So he said within 5 years. And there is a leading economist, David Shapiro, who is talking about what will be the effect of AI on the job market, economy, and the whole social structure. And he basically said with whatever is happening today, that by end of the year, October 2024, 7 months, he said, in February. And I think Ray Kurzweil, who has written basically the inflection points and who has really predicted various events in the technology landscape. So he is again saying another 5 years by 2029. And there is a AI grid group, sorry, there is a typo there. AI grid group, there's also a bunch of kind of people like AiThoughts.org, they have come and said maybe slightly earlier, 2027. And I think NVIDIA CEO, who is making the most of the money on the GPUs, on the AI space, again says within 5 years. And to the extent that Sam is saying that AGI will be able to achieve novel scientific breakthroughs. That means not only do what we can do, but what few of us can do, which is like Einstein and Newton type. They can actually come out with novel scientific breakthroughs and take us to a next level of scientific innovation. And if you want to take a hint from basically the other side, there is a very confidential report commissioned by the US government, which basically is telling the US government that this is not far away and it could become an extinction level threat. And so the government must start looking at it now. This is not a 15-year, 20-year, 50-year kind of phenomena. It is going to happen much, much sooner than that. So obviously that the whole space of AGI, and right now the topmost candidate in that technology is the large language models and generative AI models. So obviously looks like it is best of time. We are almost there, and we just have to just kind of few more climbs and we'll be in Everest. So that's what kind of looks like. And just few days before, where the Cognition Labs announced Devin, and they're giving all kind of demos, basically saying that this is not a co-pilot like Microsoft, which will work along with the Microsoft developer, but it will be a developer on its own. And but Devin will read the specs, read the requirements, develop the code, pull in the libraries as needed, pull in the APIs as needed, and integrate, compile, build, and do unit test, and then do all the testing, and then release it, and then do debugging, and the whole kind of a full 9 yards. And this is just hot off the press, almost a week old. And I think Elon Musk is kind of always there. He has spent billions and billions of dollars on autonomous car, and he's obviously going on the hardware-driven AI, which is the humanoid side, and he is betting on Optimus. And what is one of the things we see in the science fiction, where the robots can actually reproduce themselves and then create more robots, is basically that how do they change the part, how do they disengage one part and then put another part, and how do they create new. So obviously that this can basically change any part of its body into a tool or a gadget, and so it can do multiple tasks at the assembly line. It is not today's Other robots can do only one thing, painting. They can do only welding. They can do only fitting of the body part, and then the fitting of the wheels, fitting of the steering wheel, fitting of the clutch, or whatever are the tasks available in the basically in the factory floor. But it can actually change itself, and that is the beginning of what we see in the science fiction humanoid, that it can change itself. It can change the hand into a leg, leg into a hand, and a hand into a basically screwdriver. And next will be a welding machine with actually power welding machine, and everything can happen. And depending on the task given, that the robot can change. So obviously huge kind of push by Elon Musk, and he is calling it that this is going to overtake the vehicle industry. So the vehicle industry automation is what is supposed to be this kind of robot, but these robots themselves are going to become much bigger, because they can do work outside of the assembly line in the factory. They can do jobs at home, they can do jobs at supermarket, they can do jobs at offices. So this is going to be a big industry. So huge amount of basically best of times kind of basic news from him. And after the initial launch of ChatGPT, where it was only text-based, so very quickly everyone has basically said the large language model will have text, audio, video, images, and so now the multimodal becomes like standard. So it is no longer that this is not optional. Now almost every new model released in the last few months, they have capability to basically generate video, generate images, generate audio, generate texts, and obviously the Google Gemini had similar kind of roaring reception when Google CEO made the announcement in Christmas 2023 December in their Google conference in San Francisco. So he came there, he showed lots of demos, and the whole world was clapping and said it is the next ChatGPT moment. And maybe it was about 18 months later. And then they did benchmarks to say that what does GPT-3 do, GPT-4, and how the kind of generative capability, the confidence level is higher than ChatGPT. Even though it is multimodal, on a text basis, it is not losing any kind of performance vis-a-vis the text-only model like a GPT, etc. And again, they basically said, I need a mini version running on mobile, I need a version running on desktop, and I need a version running on enterprise. And there was basically a responsible AI person was assigned, and the responsible AI person gave a lot of talk about guardrails, how we are actually putting all those things. And everyone, Facebook, Amazon, and there are a few open source startups, everyone is rushing with their multimodal solution. So from now onwards, there will be nothing like text only. Everything will be text, audio, video, and images. So huge advances, and going from a text-based large language model to a video image, one would have expected 10-15 years, but it has happened in 10-15 months. And so I think we can call it was best of times. Then people started saying that it's costing too much to buy the hardware required, the GPUs. We are making NVIDIA rich. because some of these chat GPT 4.5, 4, 175 billion parameters. So it's a humongous kind of neural network data structure in basically brain inside. And just the learning part itself is a huge energy, both in terms of electricity and the servers and cost, electricity, everything was extremely high. And simultaneously, there was some interest saying that can we do something better? Is the idea that huge amounts of data, whatever is sitting in the internet, trillions of terabytes of data, and use as large the parameter size as possible. Why 175? Go to 275, 250, so that the whole world's knowledge can be learned. And so that was the idea of scaling. So you scale with more data needs more GPU, more storage, more electricity, doesn't matter. More. That was the principle basically of the large language models and Gen AI. But some people started thinking about, can we do something? This is like, I have written a kind of blog on this, you can read up in LinkedIn. And it says, it is like a 1973 small is beautiful moment, when the factory automation started by Ford and become a huge hit in the Second World War, where guns and tanks and ammunitions and aircraft were produced in large number of quantities, because they were getting destroyed every day in the war. And so the feeling was bigger is better, more, bigger is better, more number of cars, more number of washing machines, more number of refrigerators, yeah, bigger factories, bigger machines, etc. And then somebody came out with this idea called small is beautiful. And how do I generate small and medium industries at a local level, use local thing which would help the environment? If we would have listened to that, maybe the kind of heat we are facing in Bangalore, it would not happen. And so there is a research going on in this angle. And these guys are calling themselves small language models. Of course, that I have written, it is medium, it is not really small. And very nice research paper. You guys can read up. There was a Google paper which had a title, "Attention is all you need." That means you can give attention to what word is coming next to which word. So that look closely on a text which is written by a human and say, what is n minus one word and what is the nth word? What is the n plus one word? And so that is what they call it, attention. So you can look at it very carefully, what word is following which word, and keep the number of occurrences, statistics, probability, and then you can come out with a very good guess on what should be the next word. But that was the fundamental principle. And a new paper was written called "Textbook is all you need." Basic idea is, why do you need all the garbage, junk from internet, where 90, 95%, 98% are junk, and it is articles written one-sided, biased articles. Your kind of political party, one party will say this, other party will say that, somebody who's a supporter will say. So how do we go for more or less authentic kind of textbook quality information? When they say textbook, it means usually collated, somebody looked at it, somebody reviewed it, somebody edited it, and then this gets published by and so basically look at good, reasonably good material, PDF files or kind of textbooks, textbook quality data, which are generally expected to be more curated and more accurate than the regular junk available on internet. And I think the smallest number of parameters is from Microsoft 5 2.0. It's only 2.7 billion parameters compared to 175 billion parameters. And when they did a benchmark, it is doing pretty well against some of the LLMs and some of the open source model, which is using. So by reducing the learning data set from humongous amount of high volume data to still high volume, but kind of comparatively much smaller size, that we're able to get more or less with good output, sometimes even better. So there are models coming, that the Llama from, I think, Facebook is also only 7 billion parameters. And so Salesforce, 7 billion parameters. So there is, I think, look out for small language models. And then you look at it, what are the big consulting and accounting firms are doing? Everyone is spending about $1 billion plus in trying to develop their artificial intelligence platforms. And of course, IBM and all others, and basically saying that how do you help E&Y employees? So all the knowledge, all their audit experience, all their consulting experience, all their consulting reports, and so the employees can actually basically get the benefit of AI, and the customers can also get the benefit. And so huge amount of investment were being made, but these things look like pocket change, because now the OpenAI CEO is saying that he wants $7 trillion US budget. So he is not happy with billions. So he came out with this magic number of 7 trillion, and he is talking to Abu Dhabi, Dubai, because the money is there in the Middle East. And say, how do we get this investment so that he can really speed things up? So I think a huge amount of basically things happening on this side. And while this image and other things were going on, even in the early stages, there were deepfake videos, deepfake audio started coming. Even though in one case, the basically Pakistan ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan, when his party or when his supporters won 100 seats in the parliamentary election, so they were able to create a video which is a fake video of him thanking the electorate. So that was used for a good purpose, but there were a video of US President Biden asking people not to vote in the primaries. They have a primary election going on, and then they figure it out that it's a deep fake. So a lot of questions were raised on your Mona Lisa, some of the greatest paintings in the world, and how those things will not be duplicated. So huge amount of research going on directly from the cyber security industry. So very high level, almost unbreakable type level of encryption, which is like a US Department of Defense type. And how do we put a watermark which is embedded into the image? And only if you have the decryption software, if anybody else reads the image file, they cannot find the watermark, that it is fairly embedded into the image. But only the decryption algorithm can find out And if there is a watermark, then it is generated by AI. If there is no watermark, then it's a genuine kind of a painting or genuine video. And so if basically that if the social media companies have the decryption, so they can check it real time when a video is posted and it has got some basically very importance, like an ex-president or CEO of a company saying something which could cause a lot of harm if it is a deep fake video. They can turn on the encryption, check for watermark. If the watermark is there, block the video immediately. And so huge amount of research thanks to the cybersecurity guys. And that is already experimented. And I'm sure this will become cheaper and cheaper and available to everyone. So this is another big technology, without which there will be too many deepfakes. And a lot of discussion about guardrail. I think 2 years back, I've written a blog and I was giving the Indian context where when we had a lot of customs duty and import restriction, there used to be a negative list. These industries, defense, railways, etc., ports, where we will not give it to external, like in a private or overseas investor. So I was talking about how do you get derogatory words in various languages, various accents, and say there could be one word which is acceptable in London, but may not be acceptable in Scotland. Even just within United Kingdom, something not available in Wales. And so look at Australian, New Zealand, Canada, US, India, various kind of, just English itself, it could be multiple kind of accents. What are the objectionable words? And if a chatbot is about to say those objectionable words, stop it by keeping an objectionable word list. And so kind of a lot of ideas are coming and a lot of research happening in the guardrails. How do you avoid biases? How do you avoid derogatory text or images? How do you unlearn inappropriate behavior from data? So a lot of work going on, and most of them have been putting that in. And so this is another good things happening in the industry. And I think hardware, instead of only NVIDIA specializing in specialized kind of servers like GPUs, now a lot of other players have come in. Qualcomm, Samsung, Amazon, Google, Facebook are joining the game. So there'll be more. This is more like availability was becoming a problem, because more and more people want GPUs, and there was a single company delivering it. And now hopefully in the year coming, there'll be more GPUs available. And I think that the edge data, near data processing is becoming very, very hot topic. Even within the GPU, the processor on the RAM, on the random access memory, even the small distance, how do you make it? How do you make the RAM and GPU embedded so that we don't waste any energy and time between even random access memory? Forget about disk outside. And how do I improve computing at the edge on the IoT devices? So huge amount, and this will help in energy saving, because if you can do a lot of it on the edge, then we don't need to use Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth or whatever technology to transmit data from the edge device. And that takes a lot of energy. And I think cooling of data centers, because the GPUs are becoming so massive, thousands of them, and so a lot of advances in creating it under the sea near the harbors, especially northern sea, where the water will be cold most of the time. And of course, in the mountains, in the northern countries in Europe, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and a lot of places in Russia. on the north of Japan, where it is always cold, and so we don't need power to cool, and the air is also clean, and so a lot of things, and abandoned mines, so you can go deep below, both in the sea and both, and there are data centers in coal mines abandoned, and how do you make it work? Bomb shelters, and so a huge amount of hardware work is going on, because everyone knows that the AI is going to be an energy guzzler. So kind of overall, I think if kind of anybody looks at all this, they will say it is the best of time. We are going in the right way. But as I said, the Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I'll just tell you a few stories on the problems the industry is facing. I think that if you want to look at, you can't get a worse example than 0 to 0 in 2 months or less than 2 months is Google and his CEO, where people are asking for his resignation. And just in December, he stood in front of the whole crowd and announced Gemini. And now we are just into March, and people are asking for his head. And he has to come out and openly apologize. And he has used the word saying, we were wrong, unacceptable, we have to get it fixed. And he has to pull back the software, and deep embarrassment. And all in a span of about 6 weeks. And what went wrong? So basically, I think there is a concept going on now that the political spectrum in many of the countries are becoming very rightist and leftist and extreme left. So there is a new word coming up which is in the dictionary, but it's called woke, W-O-K-E. So the definition is aware and actively attentive to important facts and issues of racial and social justice. So be very, very attentive. Be very careful not to say anything biased, not to say anything, but not to use any racial kind of references. Don't use any sexual preference references. Don't use color of the skin references. Don't use any physical handicap kind of references. And don't use. And it has become so much extreme that something which we don't think it is racial, there are a lot of, I think, celebrities say something very harmless, but it is being viewed as you are anti something, and then they get real flock on the social media, and they have to resign, and advertisers have to pull out their products, and it has become like that. So basically, the guardrails become woke. Sorry. So it is unable to distinguish between past. There were problems in the past. There was slavery in the United States many, many years ago. And then they fought the Civil War, and slavery was abolished by an act of the government, act of the Congress. So there is no point if somebody says there was slavery in America so many years back. So that is not wrong. And there are some institutions where is basically nobody is going to say just because the Pope is basically a Caucasian kind of a male, people are not going to really kind of say bad because bishops from the other kind of races are coming in. There are black bishops, there are bishops from India, there are bishops from Argentina, Mexico, and we all understand that this Catholic Church, it's going to take a while, and it is not like this is absolutely racist. If somebody says, what do you think is the race of the Pope? And somebody answers, probably white, and nothing wrong with that. Because, but the guardrails went too far away, and what they did was draw a picture of Pope. So it's got a black person Pope, black woman, and a red Indian, which is the American Indian Pope, and say draw Apollo 11 crew. Apollo 11 crew, there was a number of people there, and you cannot manufacture them. They were there, they were white, they were male. So there's nothing to say anything. But the guardrail said, oh, no. If I just put only white person's image, then it will be considered bad. So let me add a black person. Let me add a woman. And it not able to recognize that the question is, there was something called Apollo 11, which is spacecraft which went up, and they were crew, and there are pictures available, and you just show me that picture. So I think the guardrails went too woke. And of course, that they got into controversy in India, where there were a lot of bad things about Indian Prime Minister, and I think the IT Minister has sent a strong reprimand. And they were calling it like inadequate testing, but my belief is it is impossible to test these systems adequately. Because once you have created a Frankenstein, then there is no point in saying that Frankenstein did something. Because you cannot put if then else guardrail kind of code for a 175 billion parameter huge neural network, deep learning model. So I think that will be a big topic. And that is what Divakar and I have been talking to a lot of customers, saying that how do you test these things adequately enough? Obviously, it is not possible, but at least reasonably well, how do you test? And kind of not get into an apology and embarrassment like Google. So I think guardrail technology is very, very infancy. I think it is like my 2-year-old blog, which says you create a negative list of bad words, inappropriate words. And basically at that time, I thought that was a very simple solution. But now I realize that even the big guys like Google are putting similar kind of solutions like what I thought, and getting into trouble. So this is what happened to Gemini. And there is a news of Elon Musk again here. When OpenAI was formed, it was formed as a non-profit. And the company filing in the state of California says OpenAI will be unconstrained by a need to generate a financial return, not organized for private gain, to open source technology where applicable. And it also said researchers will be strongly encouraged to publish their work, papers, blog posts, code, and patents will be shared with the world. And you know that they've created a very complex corporate structure with the non-profit on the top, for-profit with a cap of profit at the bottom, Microsoft becoming almost like a monopoly partner, kind of giving most of the money, and a special contract with Microsoft to share all the basically output, all the software, all the models coming out of it. So instead of sharing it with all, it has become shared with only Microsoft. And so the whole thing has changed. So Elon Musk has filed a suit which says OpenAI is deviating from his original mission of a non-profit entity because he put money at that time. So he said, by trusting their mission statement, I put money, now they are deviating. So the court should order them to close the profit unit and then cut the relationship with Microsoft and become truly open. And let's see how that lawsuit goes. And very, very surprisingly, Elon Musk is not asking for his money back with interest. All he is asking is they should go back to the open kind of model. So I think interesting, because news will keep coming on this lawsuit. And this I've already written a blog, Air Canada. They deployed a Gen AI chatbot and very empathetic, very human-like. So the customer called and said, are you traveling for business or pleasure? And the customer probably said, not both, because I have a bereavement in the family and I have to go for the funeral. So a chatbot talked for some time and then it come and said, I'm offering you a discount. We have a bereavement discount. And then you realize that there is nothing called bereavement discount in the Air Canada discount policy. But this customer was smart enough to record the discount statement and filed a suit in Canadian court and actually won the case. And Air Canada went with a very vague defense, which says this is using an experimental technology. And so the chatbot should be considered a separate entity other than Air Canada, which the judge said, absolutely not. Whatever technology Air Canada deploys under its brand name, they should own the responsibility and they should pay the customer the discount. So how did it happen? The model mixed it up. I think bereavement, you have to be empathetic to the customer. You have to support the customer during the bereavement. Look at some mission statement, some employee welfare policy, some document somewhere else where it says that we will support you financially, something. So we read all these documents, totally unrelated to human mind, but in these billions of neurons, they connected everything. And then it come and said, hey, if you give a discount, that'll be good. And the customer should be happy type. So it came out with a new discount policy. So again, how do we put guardrails to control this? So a very interesting kind of case, you guys can read about it. It's all available in the open domain. And I think too many to count, large number of class action, individual class action suits have been filed against OpenAI, against a lot of open source, a lot of image generation companies, and the Hollywood, because whenever an image Gen AI system asking to draw a lion, it is drawing Lion King. Whatever you see in the Lion King movie, that is the image of the lion, because obviously that on a probability basis, if you look at all the lion images in the world, the Lion King will be the number one. So the Gen AI software thinks this is the best representation of lion, Superman, Batman, and a Joker, and kind of Mario, that TikTok game, etc. So, and almost 95% reproduction of articles, drawings. So basically they are saying that we did not give you permission to read. And OpenAI is arguing that it was available in the internet, the PDF file, JPG file, image file, whatever it is. It was available. We could use an API to go to your website and then pull that paper down. And so you put it there. You didn't put a lock. And so we read everything available in the world and we created the model. And they are arguing, the judge, that this is like stifling innovation and human progress. So they should not, if it is available on the internet, they can put an encryption, they can put a lock, but if they don't put a lock, then if we open, then we should not be blamed. But But the newspapers and artists are saying, just because my house is not locked, you can't enter and steal things. You're still a thief. So very interesting. And so we expect that some sort of a licensing. So the big organizations who put up things like a newspaper, New York Times, Washington Times, London Times, and all these big papers, and big artists who have, so they can put it into a license kind of an arrangement. But what happens to thousands and millions of people who post their thoughts, their blogs, and it is their copyright? So it's going to be interesting to see how these lawsuits get settled. So, and I think the medical advice has gone wrong. Again, it's a mix-up. So there's a company called Perplexity. So that they are in the medical personal advice, health. So after you get discharged from a hospital after a surgery, etc., so that somebody needs to call you and keep checking and give. If you have questions, you can call somebody and then say, can I do this? Can I not do this? And etc., which is very much important, because in the US, a lot of old people live alone. And after a heart surgery, can I walk? How much should I walk? Can I do exercise? Can I do this? Can I do that? Etc. So they asked the chatbot, and can I work on my laptop? And the chatbot said, yes, of course you can work on your laptop, but once in a half an hour or so, please do these hand stretches, neck stretches, shoulder stretches, etc., which is absolutely contrary to the doctor's advice. For first 6 weeks, because there is an open heart surgery, the upper portion of the body, we should not do any exercise. You can do some exercise for your thighs and legs and knees and the lower portion. But just the chatbot mixed up a general ergonomic advice. If you are sitting long time in front of laptop, you should stand up, you should stretch. And it got mixed up with the specific advice for post-operative or kind of post-surgery care. And it almost got one patient into a serious complication. So they have to pull that how these billions and billions of parameters and then the networks work. And so this is another interesting thing which we need to see. How do we basically put basic guardrails on this? And so we talked about less guardrails and more guardrails. We talked about Google, Gemini, but here what happened, I think DALL-E, the open AI image synthesis model, it has become a it started giving very bad images. A teenager carrying an assault rifle and shooting people, teenagers having drugs, teenager drinking, and a lot of inappropriate demons, monsters, and lot of undesirable images which are getting generated for some very simple kind of questions to generate some image. So they say they have spent considerable efforts in guardrails, but still these problems exist. So I would like to say guardrails is like a brake in a car. So the brake technology is much more as important or even more important than the accelerator technology. And it's because that is what saves people. When you see somebody else coming on your way. And so this is a very interesting discussion. I'm sure we all will be having in the time to come. So how do we do this? Can you do it effectively? Because The fundamental principle is scale, fundamental principle is billions of parameters, and how do I put some sort of basically brake, or is it a brakeless kind of system? We can't do much about it. So this technology will undergo lots of changes, just putting guardrails. And if you saw the Gemini problem, basically it went basically too strict. So I should not put a white pope, because kind of putting a Caucasian pope is considered racially wrong. And ChatGPT, which has got billions of dollars and it's supposed to have all the energy, it says, what is the gender of the first female president of US? And is unable to answer, because it says it is inappropriate to ask the gender of the president of India. We should look at only qualification. What is the religion of the first Jewish president of India? So there are a lot of thinking about ChatGPT doesn't understand. So it is just mechanically going through the generative AI phrase, because if it understood, so you say first Jewish president is Jewish, first female president is female. So there is no question of being gender bias or religion bias. So basically the past with its flaws and the better future. So what do you expect a pope to be in, say, 2050? I think you can draw a mixed. And what do you think a president's Jewish president, or we already had a black president, a woman president in US. And so past, present, and the trick questions like this one is not able to understand. So guardrails are either going too tight or getting too loose. And so we have been brainstorming. This is a collection of what is available in public domain, but kind of special thanks to Gary Marcus, whose blogs I read, and he is the best contributor to It Is the Worst of Times, so that he comes out with basically the risks, and he basically says, and whatever he has been saying for last 2 years have actually turned out to be true. So I think I'm a very interesting world we live in. It was best of times, it was worst of times, it was hope of spring and winter of despair, because you see all these problems that we don't know, can we even fix it properly, and where it's going to go. And so very interesting basically where things are going. And I hope this was informative. And then let's just open it up for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. Anybody, any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll post it on the chat and we can take it from there. So all you need to do is just unmute yourself and ask.
I just see something. Yeah.
Hi. Can you hear me, Diwakar? George?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, George.
All right. Okay. Yeah, very useful, Ravi. I think you captured it so nicely, like a great story. And I don't think I have a question here, but maybe to add some perspectives. And in my view, this whole AI thing may not happen on a fine morning. Maybe it's a iterative, incremental thing that may happen because maybe a domain by domain. There are already places where the AI is doing better than human. I mean, be it games, speech recognition, translation, maybe in protein bending. I mean, there are many domains where it has surpassed benchmarks. So I think it may happen in a very progressive, iterative manner maybe one way to look at it, even AG or ASI or whichever way you look at it. But what is more interesting is the points you said on this whole Air Canada, Gemini, medical advice, all these points where, I mean, again, like you said, it all point down finally to the way you test or you cover the scenarios. But also I feel that this is all about very basic common sense, and what is common sense is maybe still undefined or, too difficult to define with all our brain, the way the neurons lined and working. And I've seen, and maybe, NR or maybe some of you must be tracking this guy, Yaken, right? Lee Yaken. I mean, Jan Leeken, I'm sorry, Jan Leeken. So he's saying we are overusing this whole deep learning thing to a hilt. And maybe we are missing the whole thing about what's reasoning, what is planning, what is common sense. So the model ultimately, could be something, a combination of what is there today, but you still have to maybe look at some of the old fashioned things to really bring in that sense of common sense into this is maybe one to look at it. I feel maybe things maybe, the AI community will consider as we progress and maybe take a more commonsensical approach.
Yeah, I think a good point on the incremental piece, but obviously incremental. When you say incremental, you will be termed as a classical guy and say nothing incremental in this new world. Everything is a big jump. Like when ChatGPT was announced or a multimodal Gemini was announced, and they have surpassed everyone's expectation. It's not like, okay, we just added some more phrases, some more knowledge. And so I think another topic which could be of interest is a scale law, because OpenAI, Gerard and others came out with a law of scaling, just like the Moore's law. And they said more data you pump in, more your billions of parameters you put and create a much bigger neural network, and the things will get better. But just like the Moore's law itself has become a little bit slower in the last 10 years, that maybe the law of diminishing returns have started happening on the scale. And so more emphasis should be on small language models, more emphasis on artificial narrow intelligence, like each of the domains, and so look at domain by domain. Because finally, it is like the Excel or something. Most of us use only 2%, 1%, and do our day-to-day work. But your enterprises, your manufacturing industry, aircraft manufacturing, healthcare, and financial institutions don't need all kind of image drawing. What is the next image to be drawn? So how do they look at the knowledge, and how do you make it more accurate, less hallucination in basically in a narrow field? So can I certify that in this narrow field that there are no these stupid problems of stupid comments and wrong data? And there's interesting story about that Gary Marcus, who is always looking at risk. In his bio, ChatGPT said you got a pet chicken. And he says, what do you mean? I never actually seen a live chicken in my life. And he said, you have a pet chicken. I don't know where it went and got that information and put it in the biodata of Gary Marcus. So you have a lot of stupid things. At the same time, huge amount of intelligence, but you see this kind of a stupid mistake. And so how do you certify? Can you even test? I think on the Gemini mess up, that is where I think that I'm asking Divakar and Anil Sane and others in AiThoughts are. What do you mean, or how do you adequately test, or can you even test it adequately?
Yeah.
And how do you not repeat the mistake of Gemini? So basically, interesting world we live in. That's all I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think maybe some issue there is that our urge to generalize, and we think that by generalizing we can conquer the common sense. Maybe that's where we are missing the point.
Yeah.
Because in traditional world, we test and there is a coverage, and coverage means everything. And I may still leave a 2% uncovered. I mean, even in the normal deterministic applications, that's usual. But when an AI does that, it is intolerable for us, right? Because we think it has to be generalized. So I think, yeah, I mean, maybe there is some sense have to prevail between, a district plus AI together, somewhere that whole thing has to converge. I mean, I still believe maybe that's where possibly this common sense will get more attention.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Hi Ravi, this is Yashwant.
Yeah.
We have seen, and you have also brought out so many points about the LLM when applied in a generic sense for general information across multiple, knowledge sources, where the junk data goes in, biases are added in, and all those problems. And that is where the focus is. And more articles, blogs, which I see, are talking about, oh, this went wrong, Gemini went wrong. It's all about the generic this thing. And predominantly it boils down to the data which is used for training and the biases balanced, and whatever model balancing which was done. Now, when we apply the current available technology and the methods to create solutions, LLMs or solutions specific to certain verticals, let's say steel manufacturing industry or aluminum manufacturing industry, where the data which goes in is all their historical manufacturing data based on which they are supposed to predict and do whatever generative AI is supposed to do to help the manufacturing going. So is the methods and technology available ready for maybe to be applied in such a constrained environment like manufacturing of different verticals? Because there is no junk data going in, there is no, it's all about curated data which is collected over a period of time through IoT platforms, and then we are using it to helping AI arrive at what should be the mixture of ingredients and what output they should expect and what kind of quality they want. So is the technology ready?
Yeah, if you look at that one example I gave you, the Air Canada example. So this was very specific to customer service in the airline business. And what happened, they were trying to use, so if you want to completely automate the human interface, the call center agent interface, then there are a few things. One is the domain knowledge. What is the flight industry? What questions customer will ask, how to answer. But the other is general human to human interaction, empathy, showing appreciation, and some of those things. And what is happening is that you need both. And the first one comes from the narrow knowledge of reading your discount policies, your customer kind of situation, if you ask the question, what to answer, etc. And then the call center actual audio text for the last 5 years, where a call center you have automated. So the call center agent and customer are talking. So that audio is fed as an input for learning. And so we are basically learning both the human to human contact as well as domain. In the mix-up, there is a problem. So it is not very easy to say, let us go artificial narrow intelligence like I used to think. I have written a lot of blogs which says, I'm happy with ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. I don't want AGI. But what is happening is when you want to go far beyond the expert system. And if it is only AI, it cannot be, it has to be human in the loop only. It cannot completely do the full transaction. Because the full transaction, human is not a robot. So call center agent would be interfacing, talking, joking, laughing, empathizing with the customer. So all those things have to come in. And those things don't come in. That is same for retail industry or airline industry or any industry. And so, or the other example of that help, you have basically kind of medical help. So
Okay.
basically, when you jump from that, what we used to do, even today in the BPO industry, there are a list of 20 questions and answers right in front of the desk, stuck with a pin. And the customer,
Yeah.
and the call center agent says, question number 25, what is the answer? So
Yeah, the next best action or whatever you call
yeah,
it.
so but what is going to happen is, now we are trying to, it doesn't matter, not only these 25 questions, but it could be any interaction. And so those two live examples of one healthcare customer support, one airline customer support, is giving some thoughts need to be on how do you put better with guardrails. And it's because the second one is serious. At least first one you pay the discount and get out. But first one, if the patient dies because of complication, and because you told him to do a lot of exercise, and then the
Yeah.
stitches come out in the heart inside, and he has to go for a resurgery, it will be it could actually become tricky. So basically, I don't have all the answers. I think it is still.
So what I guess is, I
I
think there
think
is still work to be done,
Yeah.
or the kind of guardrails to be put, whatever the application is, whatever is the vertical is,
yeah.
that is required.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I think Yashwant, my view there, and I know I've been in a strong view on this. I mean, we are trying to solve everything with AI. That attitude need to maybe change.
Yeah.
I mean, look at even that Air Canada example. If that was an agent, what will he do? I don't know what to do. Let me ask my manager, right? That's what we might do. And why a chatbot need to resolve it using some token and then give an answer?
That
Not
is what
needed.
is the term used is don't let your soldier be general. And I've written in my book for that you made a call center agent, team leader, manager, and chief revenue officer who can decide on discount. So, but
Yeah.
but how do you make it? So these are the boundaries of a call center agent, because this is not our traditional programming. So that is the conundrum.
Correct.
I think the Devin guys are trying to do that is what I hear. I'm not sure how true it is. The Devin, what they are bringing.
Basically, in the first, when they make the announcement, it is best of times, and after 2-3 weeks, it is the worst of times. So
Yeah,
now
no, they're already being thrashed by a few people. But I think additionally, what they're doing is to build a reasoning engine and a planning engine into it, which is not anything to do with AI. I mean, these are like expert systems or if then else or whatever call it, but it's less fashionable, but that's how humans work.
So I have a, basically it's a direct question, so it's okay. I will not read that question in the public, but not a lot of interesting questions coming up. But basically, what time is it best of times? It is worst of times, or it is somewhere in the middle? That is what is the kind of questions. Obviously, one needs to get philosophical, and this whole paradigm shift of kind of self-learning, and very difficult. I know that medical advances of understanding human brain has not happened after having microscopes and MRIs and CT scans and so much of data. and it's going to be as difficult because now we are going with 175 billion parameters and all that, which is surpassing the brain also. Good, good. Thank you. If you want to close, Divakar.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. Our next session will be 2 weeks from now. Watch out for the notice on LinkedIn. Subscribe to our AI Thoughts channel if you haven't. The recording for this will be up on our YouTube channel, so you can access it anytime you want. And do like our page on LinkedIn and follow us there, and you'll be kept abreast of all the latest events from AI Thoughts. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening, everybody, or a great day.
Thank you.
Wherever you prefer. Thanks, Ravi.